All right, I can't see my video screen for some reason, so hopefully I don't look too crazy. You can actually see me. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Sarah Torbert, and my job is to serve as the state 4-H volunteer specialist. So once a month in January, February, March, and April, I do a training related to volunteers. And this month we have 2, I think, so far. Maybe we'll get a couple extra leadership team members joining us. So Zoe and Victoria, if you want to introduce yourself, maybe let people know who you are and what kind of things you do in 4-H. We'll have Zoe go first.
Perfect. Well, hi everyone. My name is Zoe Griffin. I'm from Sublette County. Through 4-H, I've obviously been a junior leader. I also show livestock. I show goats, pigs, and cattle. And I also did cake decorating for a year, so that was fun. But yeah, those are my main projects.
Okay. And Victoria, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Victoria Peck. I'm from Lincoln County, and I do all sorts of stuff. I'm on the state leadership team. I'm also the president of my charter. Well, not my charter, my club here in Kemmer. I'm also on the shooting sports team. Sorry, do the shooting sports, and then I do cake, cooking, rope, leather. I think there's one more. Oh, visual arts. That's it. So I do almost everything. So.
All right. Anybody else from the leadership team? I didn't see anybody else, but I want to make sure that I didn't miss a name or something. All right. Well, we're going to get started. Go ahead. Okay. We're going to get started. As we go, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box or feel free to just unmute your microphone. My biggest suggestion is if you want to know some stuff from these kids about their personal 4-H experience, feel free to write those down and they would love to answer those for you. So you're more than welcome to ask them questions. We have actually some time built in to do that too. So be sure to help us engage at that point in time. All right. So what we're going to do today, maybe. There we go. Whoa, of course. All right, first we're going to check out the 4-H policies and what it says about a great 4-H experience. We're going to hear from Victoria and from Zoe about their personal experiences. We're going to answer any questions you might have based on what we all have to say. And then I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that might help you to actually make those things happen within your program. Or if you're a parent, things you can do to support your child. If you're a kid, maybe ways that you can help your volunteers understand your needs, things like that. So it's a pretty informal session. So if you have any questions, once again, feel free to ask those at any time, either in the chat or you can raise your hand, you can talk and we can try to hear you. Sometimes the chat box is just easier. So, all right. So if you open up the 4-H policies, there's some things that I think can be really helpful to help you know how to create a positive youth learning experience for the young people that you work with or your kids if you're a parent, or most of us are parents. So if you're a parent and leader, the kids you work with and the kids that live at your house. So one of the things that's in the policy manual is we outline what the youth experience should look like. So if you're joining 4-H, our goal is that these are the things that are being provided by either your club, your county, your leaders, whoever it happens to be, your parents are giving you times to be able to make those happen. So if you look at them, the first one is that there's an opportunity to set goals, keep records, and reflect on learning in their project area. So this may not be the most fun one. I'm guessing this isn't what makes a great 4-H experience, but I'm guessing that 4-Hers who either are in their senior year, junior year, are having to actually fill out scholarship applications or kind of put together maybe even SAE projects from FFA can tell you that this part led them to the experience they're at now. So while you're 5, 6, 7, 8, and you think this is like the worst part of 4-H, long term, and I see Victoria shaking your head, yes, long term, these are the things that are going to help them, and they're going to appreciate that you help them do those things within the 4-H program. And our main way we do that is through our record books at the end of the year. And there's lots of online record book informational sessions. I am not a record book guru, so I am not the one to ask about that, but I know that there's a couple of our educators who have done great things to make sure you know how to do your record book. And if you need that information, let me know and I'll get that to you. The second one is probably the reason all of us are here. The second thing we say is we're going to provide caring adults who are going to work to support, to develop life skills and project work. So we need volunteers because there are, I think, 26, 27 people that work for 4-H in the state of Wyoming, and we have about 5,000 kids. So I'm pretty sure that 25 people can't provide that caring adult experience for our young people. So we need people like our leaders and our parents to help provide that adult support. And we'll talk about what that looks like. We're also going to provide opportunities for hands-on learning. Hopefully our projects are doing that. A place to publicly display what you're doing. We have fairs and other events like that. And then opportunities to participate at club, project, county, regional, state, national, and international level. So there's lots of different places where kids can do things. So as a parent or as a 4-H volunteer, I hope that you can keep, and if you've seen one of my workshops before, I think I present this almost every single time. I hope these are things that you can keep in the back of your mind as to how can I make these things happen in a fun and enjoyable and exciting way. And so if you're thinking about planning a club meeting, a project meeting, a get together, are there ways that you can add these things into your experience to make sure that we're providing what we say we're going to do for young people? The other thing that you'll find in the policy manual is, let's see if it advances. I'm struggling advancing my slides too today. All right, there we go. Is what we call the values of the 4-H program. So we say that we value these things because research has shown that doing these things will in turn allow young people to thrive in the 4-H program. So there's some repetition here from what the experience is as to what the value is. So the goal is that we provide experiential learning, that means hands-on learning, ways that they can learn and do at the same time through project work in their area of interest. So if somebody's really interested in arts and crafts, then we hope we give them a place to actually do some arts and crafts, not just talk about it or look at pictures, that they actually get to participate. If they really like animals, then in turn, maybe they get to show an animal or at least have the experience to work with one. Maybe they don't have one at their house, but they can team up with somebody else or do a vet science project where they can tour or do things where they're actually learning. We also want to help people see themselves as unique, resilient, lifelong learners to actively participate in their future, setting goals and practicing self-determination. So that sounds really technical, but really we just want people who are confident in themselves, that are able to work to reach a goal. And so hopefully we're working to set goals and help young people learn those goals. The other thing that we want to do, and the next print is a little bit small, so I will show you the really important stuff in it, is that we want to help kids belong, be independent, be generous, and master a skill. So I'm going to give you some tips for belonging because my guess is that Zoe and Victoria are probably going to tell you some stuff about the idea of belonging. Independence, we give youth the ability to make their own decisions. Generosity, we really focus on community service, or hopefully we do. And all of our projects allow for mastery. Our kids can work from beginning to end to make things happen. So up next, I have some specific questions that Zoe and Victoria are going to answer for us. So Victoria, we'll start with you this time. What do you like most about the 4-H program, thinking in terms of how a volunteer can impact that?
Our volunteers are everything. We may only have one, our 4-H employees, our UW employees, we have one or two of those, maybe. Our leaders and our volunteers are what make it run. And if we have no volunteers, nothing happens. And I've seen that firsthand in my own club where we've had lack of volunteers and things that kids were super excited about, it didn't happen. So having leaders are so important. They make our world go around and they make everything so much easier. Even if you do just little things, just like showing up, and you don't have to give everything you own to 4-H, just enough to come and say, hey, I'll help out for a couple of hours, or we can help do this. Having our leaders are so important, and our volunteers, we need all of them that we can get. We need all the help that we can. They're so important.
So Victoria, can you tell us about one 4-H experience that you really enjoyed that a volunteer has been part of in your personal 4-H experience?
So I've had a couple of volunteer leaders. They became my best friends. We did, most of our leaders volunteer from the community to come in. And some of my volunteers, now they're stuck. Like they don't want to leave. They want to help so much. And so a specific time that would have happened, um, I guess I'll say Phil Lockwood. So Phil Lockwood came in and he volunteered in to help with running our ranges for shooting sports. And every time I go, me and him are best friends. Like, and just a friendly kind of way. And me and him, I help him, he helps me, he helps the club, and he pretty much helps make our entire club run shooting sports wise. And he is just so important now. In better, in a different experience, I had a leader who at Showcase Showdown. She came in and she had almost no clue, none, and that's okay. It just is what it is. She had no clue, and as being I was then the treasurer, but I was there and I helped, and she got through it, and now she's stuck. And having our leaders are so important, and as long as we can, as a club, we don't. I don't know how to. I don't know. We just need them, and as long as we, as a club, we benefit from having them, but we also it's more enjoyable because the more people, the better, I guess.
All right, thanks. Zoe, do you want to tell us about a time that you think what's most important to you about 4-H and maybe how a volunteer has impacted that importance?
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely agree with everything that Victoria said. Volunteers are so important for our 4-H. They're what makes all of our clubs run, make sure that all of our projects go smoothly. And definitely a big instance for me that comes to mind when I think of how a volunteer has made a big difference in my 4-H experiences. My club leader, Steve Green, he about 5 years ago took a big group of us who all really love showing livestock, and he said, hey, you guys want to go try something different? I'm going to take all of you down to Spanish Fork, Utah, and we're going to go to a livestock judges training. And we all went down there, and it was I believe a 2-day thing where they taught us with a very talented judging coach, taught us how the basics of judging livestock, and then put on a very good competition for us at the end. And we all absolutely loved it and went back for the next 3 years. It was an awesome experience. We got to meet lots of other 4-H members, people that I'm still, lifelong friends with to this day. And definitely Steve's volunteer time and dedication in taking us to that event made a really big difference in my 4-H experience as a whole.
Awesome. Thanks, girls. All right, Zoe, you're going to answer the next one first. The question is, maybe if I can get the PowerPoint to advance. There you go. What is something that a leader has specifically done to make your 4-H experience, and you kind of covered this, but maybe you come up with a different one, and maybe the word fun is the one that we're going to focus on here.
Yeah, for sure. So, that first experience I talked about was definitely really fun. But another one that comes to mind is a few of our volunteers took a group of us to Showcase Showdown for the first time a couple of years ago. And all those of us who had been to that livestock judges training, they said, hey, we're going to make you guys do produce judging. And we all groaned and got mad about it. We didn't want to judge produce. It sounded so dumb, but we had a blast with that contest. And that group of leaders pushing us to go out of our comfort zone and try something new really made a big difference for all of us. And we had a really fun time at Showcase that year. So
awesome. Okay, Victoria, tell us about a leader, specifically something they have done to make your experience fun.
So, and I don't want this to sound odd, but my mom is a volunteer, and she's very included in our club. I don't think we would be able to do anything without her. And not just because she's my mom, but because we really do enjoy having her. So she took, I want to say it was like 10 of us to Showcase. And as a 4-H member, I had never gone to Showcase before. She's gone to Showcase, but it was many years ago when my sister went. So we kind of just got to wander around UW campus for a really long time, and it was so much fun. And she does well with all ages of kids, and I don't know any of the kids that don't love my mom, and I just know that, as she is my mom, but she does make it fun. She does, and everything we do, even our projects. Because she does a couple of projects. She's a project leader for 2 of our projects. And I think that everybody signs up for her projects and overwhelms her just a little bit with as many kids as we get, is because she is fun. And I think that's important, not that she's just fun to me, but she's so much fun to everybody else. And all of our volunteers are.
Great. So personality has something to do with it, maybe how you present yourself. If you, I tended to be more successful when I was more engaged and doing things like taking kids on trips or having that kind of experience. So it sounds like engaging and taking kid places that they've never been before, or haven't had the chance to do, are 2 things that both of them have talked about being part of what makes their 4-H experience great. Okay, let's go to the next question. Victoria, what part of 4-H is most frustrating to you? Because I know we all get a little frustrated with some of the things that happen. So for you, what's the most frustrating thing?
So frustrating. I know that it's really hard. And, as you said, there's 5,000 kids in all of Wyoming. Even when we're in just a little town, just, as big as Kemmerer can be, communication and organization is, even though we have more people, sometimes that kind of goes out the window a little bit, but having more people helps so much, even just in organizing meetings, project meetings versus club meetings, having more people there to say, this is the job I'll do, or this is how we should help, or more ideas on how things are not running well. Because as leaders, we may not see what's happening on the other side. There's always another side to everything. Just, so at a club meeting, kids come in, they get told all sorts of information, they play a game and they go home. And we have it may seem organized to us, but when people come in, they look at us like we're chickens running around with our heads cut off. So frustrating would be communication and organization. And I think that as a collective whole, that's something that needs to be voiced to be fixed.
So I think some of the ways that we can make that happen is making sure you let people know what your questions are. A lot of us, and Victoria and Zoe are probably in this place, have been doing 4-H for a few years. And so you forget what it's like to be a new person. And so you don't necessarily know what questions to answer because nobody asks them, because probably they're so overwhelmed about all the differences or nuances of the 4-H program. So there's no dumb questions in 4-H. So feel free to ask them, even if you think they're silly. And we're always looking for people to volunteer to do anything, no matter how small or big the job is. Someone volunteering just to pick up chairs after a meeting is a huge help and can help with the organization of club meetings. So, all right, Zoe, what are your frustrations with the 4-H program?
So I definitely agree with Victoria. Organization is so important. And I know I've struggled with a lot of volunteer leaders in the past who just can't keep anything organized. And it's really frustrating. But since Victoria already talked about that, another thing that's really frustrating to me is seeing younger members who really aren't that into it and haven't really found what their passion is. And I think it's so important as leaders to help those kids find what their calling is in 4-H, because we have something for everyone in 4-H, whether it's leadership or cooking, leather work, whatever you want to do, we have something for everyone. And so I think it's really important to put things together for those kids to be able to find their passion, because it is frustrating, when you see them coming to meetings and just not wanting to participate, not wanting to be part of anything. And so, I think it's really important to help them find their calling.
And so I think a way to help with Zoe's problem too is that I think we don't always realize the resources that are available out there. And sometimes as a leader, a way that you can help kids is to help them find those resources. Maybe you have a kid who's really interested in fishing, then let's call the local game and fish department and see if they can help maybe with your fishing program. So, and even calling your 4-H educator and saying, hey, listen, this is my problem, and problem solving with them to help find those resources. They may have a great idea of people in the area who have come to them and said, hey, I really want to help with fishing, but there were no kids that were interested. And so it kind of fell by the wayside. So that communication piece also goes right hand in hand here is knowing to seek out those resources. If you have a kid who's super interested in coin collecting, let's do a self-determined project and find someone to help them who knows something about coin collecting in the community or who also has that interest. And so I think it's not dropping that kid and their interest, but finding the resources, knowing you don't have to do it as a leader. You don't have to know about coin collecting, or you don't have to know about pigs, or you don't have to know about arts and crafts, but know that there are people out there who know those things and helping to hook them up together in order to make that happen. Okay. Next question. Zoe, you're up. If you were to share something new with a member, parent, family, what advice would you give them that you wish someone would have told you when you started the 4-H program?
Yeah, so I definitely think the piece of advice I would have wanted to hear is take advantage of every opportunity that's going to come your way. You know, when I was younger, there were definitely some opportunities that came by me in 4-H that I didn't take advantage of. And I really wish I would have, looking back. But looking at where I am now, you know, opportunities like joining the state leadership team, taking opportunities to go to shows like Jackpots that are near me, you know, even taking the opportunity at Showcase Showdown to try produce judging. When my leader asked me to. Definitely things like that, you don't realize how much the little things matter and how much they're going to make you grow both as a member and as a person in general. And so I definitely think, you know, members, parents, anybody, help your kids take advantage of those opportunities because they're going to make a very, very big difference in the future.
Awesome. All right, Victoria, same question.
So mine kind of backtracks from Zoe's, even though I absolutely agree. I think that anything that's thrown at you, you look at and you think, you know, you think about it. Even if it just seems little, like, you know, maybe it's an hour drive to go to a shooting sports event, but you're going to want to go to those. But at the same time, only choose 1 or 2 projects to start with. 4-H is huge and we do so much. And we do so much in such a short time. We learn how to do so many things and we get so many things done in 1 year. You know, I do so many project meetings, and I'm a part of so much within my 4-H group just here in town that when I started, I wish somebody had told me choose 1 or 2, and if you have time, choose 1 or 2 more. Now I see so many kids come in and they're like, oh, I can do cooking and cake decorating and shooting and archery and all of this. And it's so amazing. And they're like so excited. And then they come to the meetings and they're like, oh, this is so cool. And then about a month in, they're tired. Everybody is tired. Kids don't want to come anymore, or they just don't come anymore. And staying engaged and staying in as leaders, especially making sure that it doesn't seem like it's a chore or a punishment at that. I have a couple of kids who are forced to come to 4-H in my club, and it's frustrating, and it's kind of, take it slow. If you're new, take it slow. If not, go ahead and pace yourself and know what you can do. And after you figure it out, after like the second year comes around, you know what you can do and you know what you can't, you know what you should do. And nothing seems really overwhelming after that. It is overwhelming. So don't dive in head first, stick your toes in first, and then figure it out.
I think that's some great advice. I also, as a 4-H, talking to your 4-H educator, or maybe even some of the members who've been around for a while, there are certain projects in your county that, like Victoria said before, that her mom's in charge of, that people tend to enroll in. So there are certain projects that tend to be pretty well organized and do a really good job. I always suggest to first and second year members, try to get involved with that project so you can see what it looks like to be a really positive 4-H experience. Don't start out taking computers as your 4-H project, because my guess, or maybe make that your second one, because my guess is most counties don't have a computers leader. Most counties are probably not having computer project meetings. But shooting sports in most counties is super organized. They actually have meetings, they do things. So try to talk with someone to talk about what projects are pretty well attended or well represented in your county. So that way you can have a really good first experience. And then, like Victoria said, build on those as they go on. And I totally agree with Zoe too, is take advantages. And I would say, I know 4-H is all about youth independence and decision-making, but I think as parents and leaders, sometimes force your kids at the beginning to do things like produce judging. So you led right into that very well. They don't have a clue what they're getting themselves into. I think a lot of times, my own kids included, have no idea what that is. So if you say you're gonna do produce judging, if they try it and they absolutely hate it, they don't have to do it next year, but I'm guessing they probably never would have tried it if some of those things you don't actually force them to actually start out with. Zoe also mentioned that she went down to the judging clinic. If someone didn't say, hey, let's do this, they probably wouldn't have went back 5 or 6 years in a row. They would have had no clue to do it. So some of it is forceful, making them go to 4-H camp, making them go to Showcase Showdown, or just signing them up for it and sending them. Because I think sometimes we lean too much on, do you want to go? And they're going to say yes or no based on nothing, because a lot of times kids don't know what that experience is. So saying you're going to Showcase Showdown, great. And then in turn, they can choose whether or not they want to go ever again once they have that unique first exposure. So that would be my other advice to kind of piggyback on what the girl said, is that I think it's good to kind of force kids into things that they don't know about to see if they're going to like them. All right, so do any of you have any questions that you would like answered by Zoe or Victoria based on the things that they said, or things that you've just been burning to want to know more about from a 4-H member perspective? You can either ask them or you can type them in the chat. This is where the awkward silence happens. All right, well, if you come up with any, we will be more than willing to answer them throughout the rest of the presentation, but that's kind of some questions that I asked them to answer ahead of time to kind of help you get a perspective of what part of 4-H have they enjoyed most, so you know what directions to send your kids, what kind of things as a leader you can push people to do. I think it's really important to hear somebody who's been through it, and to know what kind of things they really enjoy doing. So the girls will stick around. I'm sure we'll have only about 30 minutes of this left, and they'll be more than willing to answer questions as we go along. So if something pops in your head, just type it in the chat and we can get back to them on that. Thanks guys for answering those questions. There's a chat that says you did a great job and people appreciate your advice. So I think it was awesome that you were able to share with us. All right, so a couple more slides here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have going on. So let's make what they said happen. How can we make those fun experiences happen? And the first thing I think you need to do is get to know the kids in your club. My guess is that the reason that Zoe has a great relationship with Steve and that Victoria has a great relationship with the shooting sports leader she mentioned is because they know about them. They've asked questions, they know what stuff they're doing in school, they know what their family situation's like they know those kids more than just, hey, how's it going, that kind of thing. And so think about a way where you can actually figure out a way to interview each other or to learn more. So it may be just simply you sit at the entrance, like shooting sports, and you talk to every kid that comes in and ask them something they did that day. Whatever it happens to be, I think just getting to know people is an important part, because that makes them feel like they belong to the group and they want to come back. And like Victoria said, they become your friends. These adults become people that you are like, I can't wait to go see so-and-so because I know they're going to be at that meeting. So I want to go there because they're nice. They seem to care about me. They treat me with respect. And that's what kids are looking for. They want to be treated just like we do, with respect and feel like they belong. So one thing you could do at a 4-H club meeting, you could have parents interview kids, not their own kids, somebody else's kid, and then they could introduce themselves to find out something unique about, or you could have families interview families, but that way they're able to have that one-on-one speaking experience with each other and really maybe get to know something they didn't know. At our last 4-H club meeting, we played Have You Ever, which is a game where you sit in a circle and someone's in the middle and they say, have you ever, and they mention something that they've done. So have you ever traveled to Florida? And everybody that travels to Florida gets up and they switch chairs and then a new person's in the middle. It helps you to learn some really unique and interesting things about the kids in your club. Ours is a kind of unique club. I think 80% of the kids in our club are adopted. And so it was super funny to watch somebody say, are you adopted? And half the club got up, and it was kind of a reminder to us that we didn't do it on purpose. We just happened to have a lot of friends that had that same situation. And it was kind of fun to watch. So that's something super easy you can do. If you don't have chairs or a way to form a circle, you can actually take pieces of Post-it notes or tape, and you can tape X's on the floor so that kids know where to run to. So you wouldn't have to necessarily have chairs. You could do it outside. You could do it just about anywhere if you're looking to play that game. One of my other favorite games is called Congruent Circles. And the idea is that you put a circle of kids in the inside and then a circle of adults or other kids on the outside facing each other, and you ask them a random question. If you could go anywhere on vacation, where could you go? And they tell each other that, and then you say switch, and the inside circle moves one and the outside circle stays stationary, so they get a new partner. And you keep asking random questions until everybody learns something new and interesting about each other. So once again, that's another way to get to know you. You could have show and tell with your 4-H families, have them bring something that's important to their family, and they could talk about that. If your parents aren't staying, you could have the kids get in pairs by families and talk about things that are important to them. But I think that getting to know you is how those relationships that Zoe and Victoria talked about start. It's not just random. They actually come with some time of actually asking kids questions and getting to know their experience. All right, so I also think it's important to focus on engagement. So if you could use the chat, tell me what you think are the important parts of a club or project meeting. So one thing that you think is an important part of a club or project meeting, if you were gonna plan one or attend one, what do you think is the most important thing? All answers are correct. Okay. We got lots of different ones and they're all super great. So somebody said learning everybody's names, being organized, which also talked about having a plan, getting kids involved, being sure to plan for fun, an agenda, interacting with peers, being communicative, getting kids time to shine and talk. These are all amazing. You notice in there, nobody said following Robert's Rules of Order. Nobody said making sure we have a motion and a second for everything that happens. I think oftentimes we focus on the things that are easy to focus on because they're very driven with rules, and we forget about the other stuff that's out there. So if a kid doesn't want to make a motion, let's think of another way to engage them. Maybe instead of having a motion, we ask every kid to say one thing they're really excited about or something like that. So really think about not focusing on the nuts and bolts of the meeting, but focusing on how we get all the kids to interact. And if you're really super interested in how I feel about Robert's Rules of Order, I don't like them. And I have a whole training I did last year about, I call it Robert's Rules Don't Create Order. So you can look for other ways to engage kids. And this comes from me. I have 2 kids who are pretty new to 4-H. We adopted them recently, and so they'd never done 4-H as kids. And every time we'd have a club meeting, they would look at me and say, please don't make me go. And it was heartbreaking to me because this was my life. I grew up in 4-H. I did all of this. And so it was literally like, I would be sad and think, what is going on? And so we sat back and talked about what they didn't like. And it was the structure, sitting and not knowing what to do, feeling very out of place, not feeling like they were welcome because they didn't really know how to run a meeting. And so we really talked about if we started our own club or did something different, what would we want? And it was fun, doing stuff, hanging out with my friends, being social. And those are the things that are important to them. So if your club has a chance to sit down and talk to kids and ask similar questions like we did to Victoria and Zoe, take that time to do that. So I was trying to monitor the chat as I was talking, and so Zoe said one thing that she does in her club to make everyone feel welcome is give them a chance to introduce themselves. And if you have a really big club, like 20 or 30 members, and that's not possible, maybe assign a few kids to do it every month. But I agree, letting them talk about just fun stuff versus a prepared presentation is a really good way to help engage kids. All right. And then the next bullet says, ask for help. And that goes on what Zoe and Victoria said about like, if you have questions, but this is also that ask for help about like, hey, if someone likes fishing, is there a guy that fishes in our club? If somebody, is an accountant, can they help our treasurer? There are people out there, and my guess is probably 70% of them would volunteer if you said, I need you to do this job. It's going to take you about an hour and you're going to have to work with these people. But a lot of times we say, I need help, but I don't know what I need help with. So if you can think of a way to be specific and ask, they will be more likely to help you. So and if you're a volunteer, say, I want to help, but I don't know exactly what you need me to do, and have them help think of that specific task that they need help with. All right. Also, this is kind of goes along with what the girl said. I'm so glad that my 4-H experience was just like theirs. So share what you know. some of you may have heard them talk about Showcase Showdown and have no idea what Showcase Showdown is. If you don't, Showcase Showdown is one of our premier events every summer, and it's happening live this year in person. We're very excited, where they get to come and they do workshops, they do tours of campus. Last year, they got to go make sausage in the meat lab. They can participate in judging contests. They can participate in dog skill-a-thon, table decorating, cake decorating, all kinds of different things here on campus. We usually have about 250 to 300 people that are here hanging out. And most counties send very small delegations. And part of that is because I don't think we do a great job of sharing what's going on. Some of you may not know that people in 4-H can travel to Finland or Ghana or Costa Rica or Mexico. So there are people out there in your counties who have done that. Find out what they're doing. You can go to Washington, D.C., you can go to Atlanta, you can go to jackpot shows, you can go to judging contests, you can be part of, and you don't even have to have livestock to be part of judging, or horses, you can do horse judging. There's all these things that are happening out there that I think we don't know about because no one's sharing them with people. So figure out ways that you can get people in to talk about it, figure out what your newsletter is saying to you if there's words you don't understand or want to learn more about. Invite people who've gone on those trips in to talk to you. They can even talk via Zoom now. Like, we've done a great job figuring out how to better support our clubs with not having to be there in person. If you're a 4-H club, think about how you can provide money to let kids go. If you have a bunch of kids that want to go to camp, do a fundraiser to give them $10 or $20 so that it's not a burden on a family, or offer a really easy scholarship program where families don't have to divulge private information in order to get your money. Nobody wants to ask for money unless they need it. So find ways to provide support dollars. I talked about inviting people in who have gone beyond the county to come and talk, and help them with signups. If it's time to fill out a 4-H scholarship, or it's time to sign up for Showcase Showdown, have a night where you all get together and do it together, or you show them a Zoom meeting, or you invite them to come to your house, because sometimes our signups can be very confusing. So I think the part is share what you know. And if you don't know, I'm going to show you some ways where you can find out a lot of these things without having to go too far. And Victoria says the state leadership team is there to help. Actually, half of them are not with us tonight because they're doing an officer training in Niobrara County. So she definitely thinks that they're there to help. And so they could Zoom in with you to your 4-H club meeting, or if you're in Lincoln County, or you're in Sublette County, or somewhere near there, I'm sure Victoria or Zoe would love to come and talk. Cade Relaford's up in Sheridan County. I'm trying to think, we've got two from Carbon County. So they're kind of all over the state that they could come to your club or your county to give talks or talk about the different things that are going on.
I promise that we would love to do that. And I think that as long as it's like, you know, even if I have to come to Uintah County, that's only 45 minutes for me. And, you know, all of these other counties, if you need us, have either get a hold of Warren, or go ahead and try to get a hold of, you know, somebody from Lincoln County, and we'll try to get as many as we can to come to a singular spot. And we'll do trainings with your kids, or say you want help doing officer meetings with your actual officers, your presidents, your treasurers, and because we've probably all done it before and we know how to lead and we know how to help. Or if you just have questions, say, hey, what is the jackpot in Niobrara County? And somebody from Niobrara County can help. We're located all over the state and we're here to help. We don't just kind of show up and look pretty. We can help, and we would enjoy it. That's why we're here.
And I think if you don't know who Warren is, you're more than welcome to email me. All of you have gotten emails from me, and Warren's office is next to mine, and he actually lives down the road. So in turn, I can get a hold of him to let him know the needs that are out there in the county. If you're looking for somebody to come hang out at your county and talk that's more kid aged than some of our leaders are, it might be a great way to engage our state leadership team and also find some young leaders for the kids in your county to look up to and be able to engage with. So excellent, Victoria, thanks. All right, so kind of to conclude this, there's some really brand new research out there that talks about a lot of the things that have been in the chat, and it's kind of funny how it all kind of comes together, and a lot of things that Victoria and Zoe have said. And this is a quote by the lady who led the research. So some of the things we learned are that youth thriving or being successful is dependent on having a high quality 4-H program where they feel like they belong and they have a relationship with a supported adult. So isn't it interesting that the two things that the girls talked about are research based and they probably didn't even know it. It just kind of leads right in there. If you feel like you're part of the group and people care about you and want you to be there, and those adults are the ones that are caring and making you belong, that you're going to thrive more in any program, including the 4-H program. And it's also shown that if youth are thriving, they're going to have important developmental outcomes, like they're going to be more personally responsible, have better academic motivation, confidence, and high personal standards. So as a parent, I look at that and think, if my kid can be better academically motivated and have more responsibility, why wouldn't I want them to engage in a quality program? So I'm going to show you some of that new research, and I think it literally just kind of leads all together into what we've been saying. So the next slide, I think, is the little crazy one, but I'm going to show you what we're going to focus on today. So this is the Thrive model, and it's way too much to cover, so please don't feel like you need to memorize this. But I think the thing that really leads into what we talked about today is this part of the model. So that youth spark is exactly, I think, what Zoe and Victoria talked about, where youth find their passion. So if you've got a kid that's not engaged, the reason why is we probably haven't figured out what they need. So let's figure out what that spark is. What's the thing that lights their fire that's going to get them excited about the 4-H program, whether it's fishing, computers, robotics, arts and crafts. For the kid that lives next door to me, it's being with friends. It's the social aspect. She could care less what project she's doing as long as there's a bunch of people there that she can hang out with. For some kids, it's the food at the end of the meeting that just makes them so happy because they get to sit there and eat snacks they might not get at home. You know, whatever that is, find that spark. And let's figure out how we can make it grow in order to make it the
He
best.
sent that reminder a week ago.
Oh, so the second part about, so the second part of that circle, if you look, I'm going to go back to it. Can't go back to it. So in the second bubble outside the spark was the idea of program quality principles. And so what makes a good youth program? And we've talked about a lot of these already today without even knowing we were talking about research-based stuff. So first, the kids have to feel safe. They have to feel like you support them mentally and physically. So that's the psychological, like you're not going to make fun of them. You're not going to be mean to them, that they can come there and feel like they have a safe space that they maybe don't have anywhere else, or maybe that it's just extra safe because everybody is so loving and supportive to them. It has to have appropriate structure. This is the organization piece that we all talked about. People don't want to show up to a meeting that's mass chaos. Organized chaos, perfectly acceptable, but mass chaos where nobody knows what's happening, maybe the leader never showed up or they were late like me because they couldn't get their internet to work, whatever it is, they need appropriate structure. The third one is that caring adults, supportive relationships. This comes up over and over again. They need people there who are there for them. They need to belong, talked about that already. They need positive social norms, which basically means they need rules and expectations that fit within the normal society. So it's a place where we, know that we go there and we don't sit and scream because we didn't get our way. We don't necessarily punch other kids, like the basics. They need support for efficacy and mattering, which means their opinion is valued. So if some kid says, we say, what are some trips you want to go in? Some little girl raised her hand and said, we want to go to Hawaii. What you say is, that's a great idea, we'll write it down. And then later you can have that talk about maybe why Hawaii isn't an option for your club. Maybe it is, maybe you guys are fundraising crazy and you're gonna all go to Hawaii, but putting them down and say that's a bad idea is definitely not gonna make that 8-year-old want to talk to you ever again. So no matter how outrageous the idea is, you write it down and then, or you talk about it and you kind of move on and let them show that you care about their idea and they can say whatever they want in that safe space. But in turn, we're going to have that opportunity to talk about what that looks like. They need to have opportunities for skill building, which we have in 4-H through our project work, and we talk about making that hands-on. And then the other one that we sometimes don't do a great job of is the integration of family, school, and community. So it's really hard for some people to know what to do when families drop their kids off. So how do we, and I don't know that I have a solution to that problem, but how do we make them feel like maybe they're part of the bigger 4-H family? How do we in turn make sure we don't do things on school nights, or that we can engage with our community is an important part of quality programs also. And so the kicker to all of this is none of this was related specifically to 4-H research. This is all about positive youth development experiences. And so I think it's super interesting to me that our program is set up to provide these things without even without this research being specifically to our program. So we're doing a great job. And now our job as leaders and parents is to make sure that those things are happening within our program. I pause because it never quite advances like it's supposed to. There we go. So once again, that's that Youth Spark is supported by those things we just talked about. And then if you look at the outside again, that one thing that's so important is those relationships. And so I think if there's nothing else you get out of tonight's talk from the girls and from myself, is that it doesn't matter if you don't know a thing about robotics. If you're there and struggling through it with them, they're going to be just as happy as if you're the robotics programmer for NASA. The kids just want you to be present. So in turn, if you have a kid who's super interested in alpacas and you know nothing about alpacas, they would just be happy if you say, I will help you out, and you both struggle together to learn everything about alpacas, because that relationship is what matters more than anything else in the world, is the fact that you're there for them and helping them out. And Victoria said that's everything. I saw her lips move there. So I think that's an important thing to remember, is they really could care less that you don't know what you're doing. They care that you're there to support what they're doing. And so that's my quote at the end. If you learned anything from tonight, is that kids need you, our 4-H members need you, because we can't at the state office or at your county do it all. They need you to help them. They need you to care, pay attention, to share, to listen, and just to be present. So if you can work on ways to make that happen, whether it's as a parent or as a caring adult that's not their parent, that's the most important thing. They can really care less about your knowledge and the fact that you were the champion judger from whatever county, or the fact that you have a degree in this. They just really want you to be there for them, to make sure that you show that you will care and that you understand. So that is the end of this training. So if you have more questions or comments that you want to write in the chat box, we'd love to hear them. And Victoria, do you want to say something? I saw you raise your hand. Go for it. No? Okay, she's just saying yeah. Okay, and then also if you haven't written your name and your county in the chat box yet, please do that so we can make sure that you get your leader training credit for this evening's presentation. If you're watching this, a recorded version of this, please be sure to call your local extension office and let them know that you watched it in order to get that credit too. Before we leave, I'm going to show you, so I do these trainings once a month. And the reason I don't tell you that because I think I'm important. I tell you that because a lot of the stuff that we talked about today is specifically included in these trainings. And so now I'm going to see if my webpage will actually open up. Told you my internet is terrible. So we'll see if this works out. Or not. It says it's not secure, which is super funny to me. All right, I'm going to try a different web browser and stop this sharing. All right. See if this works. I'm using my phone internet, which is a little sketchy, so I couldn't get my actual internet at my house to work today.
And just something to bounce off of.
Thanks.
Yes, just being present at everybody that's there and have a good attitude. Just because you're there doesn't mean that you're there, that doesn't do the purpose that, we were talking about. Just being there, yes. Have a good attitude, be engaged. And if you have no idea, don't just flop around like a chicken. It's okay to say, man, I really don't know what we're doing. And the kid looks at you and goes, I don't know either. Let's figure this out. We have to be proactive, and even if we don't have the answers, we are the ones who know how to find answers when an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old may not. So we have a huge role as leaders. Yes, I'm a member, but at the same time, I hold a high standard to myself, and I just want to try to help everybody. Hold a high standard to yourself, and don't think that you're the most important of this club, because that's not what we are. We're leaders. We're here to help, and we want to watch them grow. When I talk to leaders and say, why are you, and I ask them, why are you here? Why do you want to do this? And they say, I just love watching them grow. Because how are we're here to help them. We're here to see them blossom into whatever they like. We all know that one child that comes in and sits and he crosses his arms and he just looks at you like this the whole time. We have one. We all have one. And by the end of, 2 years, maybe it took 2 years, you wouldn't have even expected them to be doing the thing that they are in love with. And as you know, somebody who started young and grew, I have found exactly what I wanted to do. Maybe it wasn't through 4-H, but it was through 4-H leaders that I found exactly what I want to do, what I want to go to college for, and how. And now I have a help system, and you guys are a help system. I'm a senior and I'm graduating this year. I have so many people that I can go to and say, hey, my resume looks like really bad. How do I do a resume? And my
We're still
4-H
gonna eat
leader,
dinner, right?
my
Yeah,
4-H
of course we are.
Oh,
looks at me and goes,
Still
I can
gonna
help
eat
you.
lunch, Melissa and Joey.
Someone
And
said
We are, because just
something
give
support.
about dinner. All right, I think they muted themselves. All right, thanks for filling in there, Victoria. I appreciate that. I just want to show you. So this is the 4-H website. Hopefully you can see it. And if you go down to this volunteers tab, like I said, my internet's a little shaky, so we'll see how well this goes. I record all of the trainings that I do, like the one tonight, and a lot of them are very on target with some of the things that we talked about. And so I'm just going to point some of those out as a reference. If you haven't seen them already, I suggest you go and check them out. Also, someone asked for the PowerPoint. I post all the PowerPoints and the recordings and all the handouts, so you can go in and get them at any point in time. So here's one specifically about belonging, creating a welcoming environment. So that's pretty cool. This is one about opportunities, and it kind of made me think about the fact that a lot of us don't know the things that maybe we were talking about. And so that one's a little bit old. So the opportunities may not be up to date, but the opportunities are there. They're just happening at different days or times. I think that one is from 2018. And so the things in 2021 are going to have different dates. So those two are right on key. And then there's one more, this project meeting fun, that's going to have other ideas to add fun to your project meetings. So just wanted to let you know that those are there if you're looking for other ways to organizing club meetings. And then that one about Robert's Rules of Order is down here too. So if you're interested in some of those things that we talked about, you can even just look at the PowerPoints if you want. You don't have to listen. If you want to give this same presentation to your club, you can go on here and you can actually just download the PowerPoints and use them as you see fit. My goal is to make sure that you just have the resources that you need. All right. Well, thank you, Victoria. Huge round of applause. If we could clap, we would. Thank you, Zoe. Round of applause. I appreciate both of you being willing to be here with us and share. I think it's always fun to hear from kids who have been through this. So we really appreciate that. Lots of thank yous and kudos in the chat box. I'm going to stop recording. And again, if you have any questions or want to stay on and ask anything, feel